Hello, welcome back to the Breaking News Update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you are watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with another update coming out from the war between Russia and Ukraine, and I have a ton of huge news to share with all of you today. So today's date is March 28th, 2025, and it's Friday. So welcome to the end of your week. Hope you guys are all ready for an awesome weekend. I know I am, and if you've got the weekend off from work, definitely try to stay safe out there and enjoy yourselves. So, we've got a lot of news to dive into today. We're going to start off with a huge report coming out from Russia, actually, right here on your screen. Putin calls on military to finish off Ukraine's army and remove Zelensky. Russian President Vladimir Putin threatened to finish off Ukrainian troops Friday and called for a transitional administration to oversee the war torn nation instead of Volodymyr Zelensky. Okay, so huge report today. And we know that Vladimir Putin is not okay with Zelensky being in power. He's come out multiple times and called Zelensky an illegitimate president, calling him all kinds of names. We know that he'd like or much prefer a more friendly administration in Kiev to make it easier, most likely, to take over Ukraine. And on top of that, calling on his military basically to finish off Ukraine's troops. That's more show here that Russia is not prepared to end this war anytime soon. Russia's clearly playing games here. We've seen this time and time again over the last few weeks now. And it doesn't look like they're ready for any kind of a ceasefire. And we have a huge report also that Russia's claiming that Ukraine attacked the Sudza gas metering station in the Kursk region once again, reportedly with HIMARS or some sort of missiles being used. We did hear recently that Ukraine did receive more Storm Shadow missiles, so I'm not sure if those were used. But Russia's claiming they attacked this thing again. That's the same gas metering station over the last week or so. And Ukraine's military coming out saying they did not attack it once again. This is actually Russia doing that. So who knows what's really going on here. They're also claiming that the Saratov oil refinery was targeted. And we've got power outages in Belgorod, possibly indicating that maybe some sort of power substation or electrical grid was attacked in the Belgorod region, possibly. So Russia just coming out a lot and saying that Ukraine is just battering their energy infrastructure once again inside of Russia. So more signs that maybe this ceasefire is going to collapse, and maybe a lot of people would say it's not even in effect, and it looks to me like it isn't. And we know that Russia had a major condition to put a Black Sea ceasefire into effect along with the energy truce. I'm pretty sure they were tied into each other. That they wanted sanctions lifted for their exports of like fertilizer and agricultural goods. They wanted sanctions lifted on some banks, and the EU basically denied that. Okay, so maybe we're not going to see any kind of ceasefire here at all. But let me jump into all the news, guys. Lots of reports to go into today. We're going to jump on over here to mainstream news with Yahoo News, originally from AFP. Putin calls to remove Zelensky, finish off Ukrainian troops. This is coming out today, March 28th, 2025. So we're not going to go over this whole entire article. Just going to show you guys a couple paragraphs talking about this. And we'll cite it down below. You guys can read the rest if you want to. The link will be in the description of this video. So right down here, it says Russian President Vladimir Putin called Friday for a transitional administration to be put in place in Ukraine and vowed his army would finish off Ukrainian troops in hardline remarks as U.S. President Donald Trump pushes for a ceasefire. A rapprochement between Washington and Moscow since Trump's return to office and the U.S. leader's threats to stop supporting Kiev have bolstered Putin's confidence more than 3 years into an offensive that has killed tens of thousands on both sides. The renewed call to essentially topple Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky was the latest demonstration of the Kremlin leader's long-standing desire to install a more Moscow-friendly regime in Kiev. It also says here, speaking on the sidelines of an Arctic forum in the early hours of Friday, Putin said Russia could discuss with the United States, Europe, and Moscow's allies under the auspices of the UN the possibility of establishing a transitional administration in Ukraine. What for? To organize a democratic presidential election that would result in the coming to power of a competent government, that would have the confidence of the people and then begin negotiations with these authorities on a peace agreement and sign legitimate documents, Putin added. Okay, so it sounds like to me that Vladimir Putin is not open to negotiating at all unless they have a transition in power inside of Ukraine and Zelensky is removed, is basically what I'm seeing here. When launching its offensive in 2022, Moscow aimed to take Kiev in a matter of days, but was repelled by Ukraine's smaller army. Putin also issued a public call for Ukraine's generals to topple Zelensky, whom Putin has repeatedly denigrated without providing any evidence as a neo Nazi and a drug addict. Okay, so you can see here, obviously, Zelensky being called a lot of different names here. Not happy with Zelensky being in power. I'm sure it'd make it much easier for Russia to take over Ukraine if they had a more friendly government inside of Kiev, as it states there. Okay, so major report coming out today. We're now going to jump on over to X. We're going to talk a little bit more about this topic. I'm going to show you this report here from Anton Gerashenko. Putin wants to destroy Ukraine. Nothing has changed. Basically, Putin has withdrawn from negotiations. Putin is preparing for a summer military campaign. He believes he can significantly improve Russia's military position. Putin is not going to end the war. Putin does not believe that Trump will make him stop and push Russia out of the oil market. Putin's statements yesterday about how he will crush Ukraine and put it under external governance under the UN management are his new fantasies. Russia will soon be spreading the narrative that Ukrainian government is illegitimate and that it does not control the army. Also, the narrative that Ukraine is a terrorist country is being spread. It's all a lie, of course, but a lot of money has been invested in it. This new wave of information warfare is already underway. We must realize that, in fact, we have entered a new cycle of war. The Ukraine, EU, United States negotiations are important now. Okay, so I want to show you guys this clip, just 25 seconds of him basically stating here they're going to finish off Ukraine's military. Take a look at this.
Я еще совсем недавно говорил, мы их дожмем, есть основания полагать, что мы их добьем. Я думаю, что только должно прийти осознание того, что происходит у самого украинского народа. А то, что наши вооруженные силы набирают обороты, действуют все более и более эффективно. Я еще совсем недавно говорил.
Okay, so if you notice here, Putin is basically stating that his army is gaining momentum. Now, what we've seen on the front lines on mainly eastern Ukraine, we haven't really seen much movement. Now, the only difference here that I could see happening in the future is that maybe in the Sumy and Kharkiv regions, we start to see an attack over there from the Russians that just basically, for the most part, push Ukraine out of the Kursk region. Now, as far as we know, Ukraine is still in Kursk. They haven't completely left, and they've even opened up a small front inside the Belgorod region and a few settlements over there. So, could Russia potentially carry out a major invasion on the northeastern side of Ukraine in the Sumy and Kharkiv regions? Maybe this will start to make the lines topple. Who really knows here what's going to happen? But Putin believes that his army is gaining momentum. And you guys let me know what you think, because for the most part on the eastern side of Ukraine, we're not really seeing that with a lot of the maps that come out. Maybe in some areas they are making some small gains, but Ukraine is also pushing Russia back in a lot of areas as well. So I'm thinking maybe the major catalyst here could possibly be this new attack coming from Sumy and Kharkiv regions, but you guys can let me know what you think down in the comments on that. Now for Max 24, Russia reports HIMARS strikes on Sudzha gas station and drone attacks on Saratov oil refinery, power outages in Belgorod, typical false flag operation. Okay, so here's a picture coming out allegedly showing the Sudzha gas metering station being attacked again. And again, Russia's saying that this is Ukraine that did this. We don't really know what's going on over here. All I can say is that both sides are basically accusing each other of constant attacks on energy facilities right now, even Saratov oil refinery. We know that Ukraine did launch some drones into Russia last night, and Russia stating that the Saratov oil refinery was hit reportedly, or at least being attacked, and we got power outages in Belgorod. Okay, so you guys can let me know how you feel about that. Also, here's another report from Max 24. Ukrainian armed forces attack on the Sudzha gas measuring station, was carried out with the participation of British specialists. The command was given from London, said Maria Zakharova. So Maria is the foreign ministry spokeswoman, and she's coming out from Russia basically stating that the British gave this command for Ukraine to carry out this strike on the Sudzha gas metering station. Now, if that happens to be the case and that's true, why would the British do this? Are they trying to, somehow stall this ceasefire or destroy it altogether, or what's going on here? Or is this Russia that actually attacked their own metering station, which Ukraine claims has happened 2 times already over the last week or so, okay? So now moving on to Bliskovka. Russia shelled the facilities of Naftogaz. The company said this is the 18th attack on Naftogaz's infrastructure since the start of the full-scale invasion and the 8th since the beginning of 2025. There were no casualties and gas production facilities were damaged. Okay, so once again, Ukraine's coming out now, this company, Naftogaz, claiming that their gas infrastructure was being targeted and destroyed or damaged. Okay, so we just had a report yesterday in Kherson that the Russians were launching artillery shells into that city, and there was an electrical substation that got attacked and damaged over there, and a lot of people had no power. Okay, so it really seems to me, at least at this moment, that there is no ceasefire that's in effect. Maybe it was for like a day or two for the most part, but that was about it. Now it looks like we're right back at it, and no ceasefire is being held up. At least, especially from Russia's side, from what we're seeing. But now Russia's claiming that Ukraine is attacking a lot of infrastructure in their nation as well. Now for Max 24, we've got another report here on Telegram from the TASS news agency. And it says all segments of the Ukrainian armed forces do not listen to the orders of the leadership of Ukraine. The Russian Federation reserves the right not to implement the moratorium on shelling of energy facilities, which Kiev constantly violates, Peskov said. Okay, so Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesman, and him basically coming out is, what this tells me is that they're essentially pulling away from this commitment to not attack Ukraine's energy facilities, as they're claiming that Ukraine is constantly violating this as well. So they're pretty much saying, well, we reserve the right to withdraw from this. So is that them coming out and saying they're now going to start attacking Ukraine's energy facilities? This ceasefire will collapse. Assuming that one was even put in place, it almost seems like in many ways it wasn't. But it looks like we're going to see a return to energy strikes or energy facility strikes here very soon on either side. Now from Igor Sushko, Russia Scientific Research Institute of Chemical Current Sources in Saratov has been struck by Ukrainian drones. The facility develops batteries and fuel cells for the Russian military. So we've got a strike over here in the Saratov region, which is where that refinery reportedly was being attacked as well. But you're going to see a drone exploding over here on this Scientific Research Institute. Take a look.
Видно, я не знаю. Ну, я вижу их отчетливо.
Братан, я очень на!
Ебать. Стой, сейчас будет еще взрыв. Это это... Слышь, по дому жилому ебало. Походу. Видишь, как низко пиздануло? Вот. Ебать, yes.
Okay, we'll go ahead and pause it there, guys. You can see a pretty massive attack over here and a lot of smoke coming out from that facility after it was hit by that Ukrainian drone. So reportedly, a Scientific Research Institute of Chemical Current Sources, okay, being attacked in Saratov, okay, allegedly being used for Russia's military. Now from Astra, Ukrainian drones target 6 Russian regions overnight. Voronezh hit hardest, according to the defense ministry. Air defenses shot down 32 drones over Voronezh, 19 over Saratov, and 17 over Kursk. 6 were intercepted over Belgorod, 2 over Lipetsk, and 1 each over Rostov and Tambov. Total of 78 drones were destroyed. So we got a couple of videos here. This first video is very short, just going to show a Lyuty drone flying in the skies over here, and we've got some explosions also inside Russia last night. Let's take a look at these. So just a quick clip, we can see this Ukrainian Lyuty drone flying in the skies, probably over Saratov is what I'm thinking, because they usually use these drones to target much deeper into Russian territory. So we've got one more video coming up.
Сбили.
All right, we'll go ahead and pause it there. That's all we really hear in this video is that one explosion in the distance somewhere inside of Russia. I apologize. It was very quiet in the beginning, not really much sound, but you can see right after that explosion went off, a lot of these car alarms were going off at the same time, okay? So definitely some explosions happening inside of Russia last night. Here's one from Ukraine now from Max 24. Explosion in Poltava, after which electricity went out in part of the city, okay? So we'll go ahead and mute this, but we'll be able to see here visually that bunch of homes here, their power going out, okay? So once again, inside of Ukraine, looks like some sort of energy electrical grid being targeted over here, potentially. We've seen that happening in Poltava before. Who knows, or maybe it was just some sort of power line that got taken out due to an explosion from a drone. We're not really sure. But, you know, while the Russians are saying that power outages were happening inside of the Belgorod region, well, also inside of Ukraine and Poltava, which we pretty much see almost every single day. Now from Bliskovka, a young man was injured during a night attack by the Russians on Zaporizhia, according to reports from the regional military administration. Throughout the day, Russian forces shelled 13 settlements in the Zaporizhia region a total of 400 times. There were 7 reported instances of damage to apartments, private houses, and infrastructure. Okay, so we've got a picture here of last night. We had the Zaporizhia region being attacked by Russian drones once again. You can see a lot of damage here to somebody's home. Almost every day we've got reports like this. Many homes being destroyed, high-rise buildings in Ukraine. Here's some more pictures coming out from last night, also from the Ukrainian Review, Poltava and Odessa regions. Okay, so we've got what looks like some sort of warehouse here that was destroyed, caught on fire. We've got emergency crews here showing up to put out the fire that tore this place down. You can see lots of pictures here. Looks like maybe even some homes. We got a car right here also that was burned down. And more destruction inside of Ukraine to report today. Okay, so our daily reports of constant attacks from Russian drones and sometimes missiles. I don't think there was any missiles that came into Ukraine last night, but we know quite a few drones did for sure. Now we'll move on to Max 24 once again from Marco Rubio, who's the Secretary of State. And it says here, I can't guarantee you that a peace agreement will be reached in a week or a month. I can't put a time frame on it because it is not up to us. It's up to the Russians and the Ukrainians. It's also up to our European partners who have sanctions that I think should be reflected in any final agreement. Okay, so U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio coming out today and essentially stating that they're probably not going to be able to end this war anytime soon. And I think the U.S. is starting to realize that more and more as they enter negotiations with Russia. That Russia's desire is what I've been telling you guys for a long time, is to destroy Ukraine. I'm sure that's their number one objective right now, and I don't think they have any plans on ending this war. We can clearly see that, especially over the last week or so. I've been very convinced personally that Russia does not want to end this. I was very interested to see how the talks would play out, see if the U.S. could influence Russia to do this, but based on what I've been giving you guys, all this information, it looks like Russia's not ready to end it, and I think the U.S. is slowly starting to realize that right now. Now from next, Trump realizes the Kremlin played him, according to the Telegraph today. Lie bomb. That's how the Telegraph describes Putin's negotiating style. And it seems even Trump is starting to catch on. As the U.S. president pushes hard for a quick peace deal in Ukraine, the Kremlin keeps dragging its feet, stalling, bluffing, and launching fresh strikes. Behind the scenes, Moscow is milking the chaos, hoping to squeeze out maximum geopolitical gains, while Trump races for a truce before the elections. According to the Telegraph, Trump is beginning to understand he's being used. Kremlin's game is obvious, keep promising peace while bombing civilians and baiting the West, the article says. Okay, so this was a video, kind of funny. It came out like about a week or two ago. Trump was speaking to reporters, and one of the reporters accidentally bumped him in the face with one of the microphones. So you can see there him getting hit in the mouth with that. So kind of funny video. But yeah, I mean, let me know how you guys feel about this. Do you think that Trump is realizing he's being played, or do you think Trump just doesn't care? Do you think that it's all a show, or what's going on here? I mean, it seems like the Trump administration is still pushing really hard to try to get some sort of deal with Russia and Ukraine, but right now it's not looking good. And yesterday, Ukraine reportedly was going to have their defense minister, Rustem Umerov, head over to the U.S. and give them some evidence of Russia violating the ceasefire and attacking that energy grid inside of Kherson yesterday. And so far, no response from the U.S. at all. I haven't seen anything, which you would think right away they'd come out with some sort of response, but maybe they'll wait for that evidence. And I'm sure right now the U.S. is a little worried about what's going on with these talks. Maybe it's not going to work out for them. Now for Max 24, Ukraine has built 7 lines of defense behind Pokrovsk, according to Ozent Channels, which is open source intelligence. An additional line of defense has been built near Kurakovo, an additional line of defense in the Dnipropetrovsk region, and 2 additional lines in the Kostiantynivka area. Okay, so some of these maps just kind of showing that Ukraine is building defensive lines across major cities that they're fighting in right now. So here's Pokrovsk. Apparently they're building a lot of different lines of defense on the backside of Pokrovsk over here. They've also been launching some offensives just south of Pokrovsk over here where this kind of red area is at. We've been talking about that recently. And then also just south of that near Kharkov, which would be over here, they've been building up a lot of lines of defenses in these areas. Also reportedly and also over near Kostiantynivka, which we've been reporting recently, been getting hammered a lot with bombs. Russia's been dropping a lot of guided aerial bombs over here, so this is another town in the eastern Ukraine that Russia's trying to take over. So this report just basically stating that Ukraine is building up a lot of defensive lines to prevent attacks on these cities in eastern Ukraine. Okay. Now for Megatron Ron, breaking, Putin announced that Russia will be the boss of the Arctic. We will do everything to strengthen Russia's global leadership in the Arctic. And other statements, Putin instructed the government to expand the capacity of Arctic ports and work on building new harbors. Siberia and the Urals should get a rail link to the Arctic to relieve the Trans-Siberian Railway. The number of military personnel in the Arctic zone will increase. Russia's task in the Arctic must be of a historic scale, spanning decades and centuries. Okay, so this was his Arctic summit right here. We're not really going to watch it with sound because there's no subtitles here, but this was Putin speaking yesterday, pretty much saying they're going to take over the Arctic and control it. I wonder if this has a lot to do with Trump wanting to take over Greenland. We've heard many times that he comes out and states that Russian and Chinese ships, military ships, are traversing through there, and they need it for North America's security. We also know that Trump wants to take over Canada as well. Maybe that's part of it also to better control the Arctics. But we know right now that Vladimir Putin heavily wants to control the Arctics in the future, and that's a huge goal for Russia right now. Now for Bliskovka, Erdogan offered Putin Turkey as a mediator in the negotiation process to end the Russian-Ukraine war. According to Anadolu Agency, and it says here, he also stressed that the safety of navigation in the Black Sea could be an important step toward a peaceful settlement. Okay, so Erdogan coming out once again and stating that Turkey's willing to be a mediator. This is actually multiple times now that he has come out saying that over the last few weeks. So we'll see if Turkey happens to get involved, but Turkey is actually very pro-Ukraine. They support Ukraine's sovereignty. I believe Erdogan just came out saying that in the last few weeks. So huge supporter of Ukraine, and they're willing to mediate this war. Now for War Translated, Moscow firmly opposes foreign troops in Ukraine, saying it would prolong the conflict and solve nothing, per Russian Senator Grigory Karasin, who joined RF talks with the U.S. in Riyadh. Okay, so this Russian senator basically stating that Russia's not okay with foreign troops in Ukraine. So we've been hearing a lot of this from multiple top leaders inside of Russia that they don't want foreign troops in Ukraine, especially NATO troops. So really not sure how that's going to work out because we know that the UK and France right now are heavily pushing to try to get some sort of force into Ukraine, some sort of peacekeeping force, which I believe I should have an update on that here in just a moment. So now for Max 24, Zelensky. Strengthening Ukraine, putting pressure on Russia for peace, agreeing on joint security steps. These were the main topics at the meeting of European leaders in Paris. Okay, so this was from yesterday, and I wanted to show you guys this because this piece of news right here, new defense packages. France has prepared a defense package worth 2 billion euros. It was agreed that sanctions against Russia for the war should remain in force while the aggression continues. The Danish model continues to work effectively, and this year we will produce even more drones and other weapons to protect life together with our partners. Okay, so yeah, allegedly, so I want to just show you guys this news here that France basically gave Ukraine a 2 billion euro defense package yesterday. This was Zelensky meeting with Emmanuel Macron, their president. Also, Keir Starmer was there, and then this is when they held that big meeting here, the coalition of the willing, to try to figure out how to support Ukraine if we get some sort of ceasefire in this war. So that was a huge report yesterday. I just want to give you guys that update on the 2 billion euros, as I did not bring that up yesterday. It came out after a lot of our news was starting to already roll out. So now from Anton Yushchenko, Russia has started buying butter from several countries after a 17-year record price hike. Russell Koznadzor. It's kind of hard to say, guys. It's a long word. My apologies, I'm probably butchering that. Reported that by March 21st, Argentina had supplied 2,000 tons of butter, 5.6 times the figure for the same period in 2024, 371 tons. Uruguay also nearly doubled its supplies with 1,000 tons since the beginning of the year, up from 525 tons a year earlier. Iran supplied 2,000 tons of oil so far. There were no imports from this country in 2024. The growth in imports happened due to the biggest price crisis in the butter market for 17 years. In September 2024, its costs increased by 5% 5.0% to be exact, and in October by a record 6.58%. The main reasons for the crisis were the rise in the price of imported fats, difficulties with foreign equipment maintenance, raw material shortage, lack of personnel, and the Russian central bank's key rate increase. Okay, so we know that Russia's economy hasn't been doing well. Butter's been something we talked about multiple times. Some people were paying an arm and a leg for butter in Russia. Many people probably trying to find new ways to cook without butter due to it being so expensive. So it looks like they had to start buying butter from other countries now due to the increase in prices for oils and fats in their country. Okay, so pretty insane news there. Now from Nexta, Ukraine on the meter. Trump's new minerals deal slaps Ukraine with a $120 billion bill covering all U.S. aid since 2022. There's an incentive for Kyiv not to delay repayment too much. The amount of compensation from Ukraine to the U.S. budget will increase by 4% annually, writes European Pravda. That is, Ukraine not only has a huge de facto debt, the state is actually put on the counter. Ukraine has already called the new agreement on minerals a robbery and said that it will not sign the new draft, the Financial Times reported. So I talked to you guys about this minerals deal yesterday, and Ukraine is not going to sign this, is what it looks like to me. And the more these reports have come out on this whole minerals deal, the more that we've seen that it's more favoring the U.S. and it's actually in a lot of ways a robbery. Okay, it's kind of what we reported to you guys yesterday, and Ukraine's coming out saying they're not going to sign this at all. So I'm curious how that's going to work out. It looks like the minerals deal is going to completely collapse. Any kind of ceasefire in this war is most likely going to completely collapse, and we might just see this war continue on. So I'm curious how the U.S. is going to continue to support Ukraine. Will they continue to support them? Will they withdraw all support? And what are they going to do to Russia if Russia chooses not to end this war as well? Are they going to slam sanctions down on them, or what's going to happen here? We're going to have to see how that plays out. Now from Liskovka, bodies of 909 fallen defenders returned to Ukraine, according to Coordination Center. Among those returned are defenders from Kharkov, Pokrovsk, Bakhmut, Volodar, Luhansk, Zaporizhzhia directions, and Russian morgues. Okay, so sad to have to report this, guys, but 909 fallen defenders on the Ukrainian side were returned, most likely from Russian captivity. So these were some of the pictures coming out today with these trucks that were transporting the bodies. So very sad to have to report that, guys, but this is news coming out today. Now from the Ukrainian Review, Putin proposes bringing North Korea into peace talks over Ukraine. According to the Moscow Times, the Russian dictator's idea is to bring friendly countries into the talks. He named China, Brazil, India, South Africa, and North Korea among such countries. Okay, so it looks like Russia wants to bring a bunch of friendly countries into talks as well. It's interesting they want to bring North Korea into this. I mean, obviously North Korea has been supporting them militarily, and they have a major military pact together between Russia and North Korea. So interesting news coming out today, but looks like they want North Korea involved in the talks at some point. Now for Special Kherson Cat. Russians are preparing almost 75-year-old Gaz-69, produced since 1952 for sending to the front. So take a look at this, guys. Just so many pictures and videos coming out from Russia, and the Russian military just using whatever they can find, makeshifting a lot of these vehicles. A lot of times I notice they remove the doors on them, probably to jump out of them really quickly if they have to in case an FPV drone comes. But you can see this cage kind of constructed on the top of it to protect from any FPV drones. And the Russians just using all kinds of old vehicles to transport anything to the front line, as probably they're short on a lot of actual military equipment. So many of their brigades probably just don't have enough vehicles, so they got to use whatever they can find and makeshift and turn old vehicles into military-style vehicles. Now from next to France and UK's plan to send European troops to Ukraine has collapsed, according to the Wall Street Journal. Macron rallied leaders to discuss peacekeepers, but after hours of talks and a call with Trump, no country committed. Europe fears a Russian response and the U.S. won't give security guarantees. Some U.S. officials oppose the plan outright. Despite the outcome, Macron stated that after the summit that the intention to send deterrent forces to Ukraine still stands. So it looks like also on the back end here with Europe, with these talks about the coalition of the willing and all that, sending a peacekeeping force into Ukraine, doesn't look like it's going too well. But in terms of a deterrent force being sent into Ukraine, looks like maybe France and UK, maybe some other allies, might be open to that. They had an idea of sending some troops into Ukraine that wouldn't be on the front line. They'd be kind of stationed in different cities. So I'm assuming that's what they're talking about here. Looks like that could highly likely be the plan here. I'm just not sure which countries would be involved in that. Because again, we know that Russia will not be okay and probably won't be willing to end this war if NATO wants to deploy some of their own troops into there, or just friendly countries or allies to Ukraine in general. They want a country that's not an ally to Ukraine to deploy their troops. So maybe like China, for example. China's pretty neutral for the most part, aside from supplying equipment for Russia's military on the back end. And we heard recently that China does not want to send any troops over there. So I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but it's not looking good on that side of the aisle either. So now for Max 24, Ukrainian air defense shot down 89 out of 163 Shahed UAVs, 51 drones suppressed by electronic warfare. All right, guys, so 163 drones, quite a bit going into Ukraine last night. That's why we had so much damage being reported. Yesterday, I think it was down to like 86 or 89 drones that flew into Ukraine, and we didn't really hear any reports too much of damage. So it's always when we start seeing upwards of like 200, that's when we start to see massive damage across Ukraine. So that's why we had those videos and pictures coming out today. So yeah, a lot of drones entering into Ukraine last night. And our final update of the day, the Kyiv Independent, these are the indicative estimates of Russia's combat losses as of March 28th, according to the Armed Forces of Ukraine. So Russia's losses as of March 28th, our final update, 1,860 troops, 61 AFVs, 210 vehicles and fuel tanks, 17 tanks, 122 artillery systems, 144 UAVs, 1 MLRS, 1 anti-aircraft warfare system. Okay, so right off the bat, I have to say this is probably the most, for sure, over the last week or two, the most equipment and troop numbers that we've seen in terms of losses on the Russian side being reported from Ukraine's intelligence. 1,860, so almost 2,000. We haven't seen numbers close to 2,000 in probably over a month now. We usually see around 1,300 on average. 61 AFVs, that's a lot. Usually we see somewhere around like 10 to 20 or so. And then 210 vehicles and fuel tanks. We haven't seen this number jump up over 200 in probably over a month now as well. Usually on average seen around 100 or so. 17 tanks, quite a bit more than usual. And also 122 artillery systems. That's insane, guys. That's got to be the highest number I've ever seen for artillery systems being destroyed. Usually on average 40 to 60 at the most. So now 122 being reported. So lots of equipment on the Russia side showing here that it was destroyed over the last 24 hours. And just huge updates today coming out from this war. I want to thank you all very much for tuning in. And also quick personal update from me from April 5th to April 12th. I am not going to be here. I'm going to be out on vacation actually for a week. I'll put out some community posts today to let you guys know about that. But I do have some official plans to be heading out with the family for a week. We're going to be gone, but I'll be back after that. So again, April 5th to April 12th, it's going to be next Saturday until the following Saturday when I will return, and I'll probably come back on the following Monday. So I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in again for this update. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell, that way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless, and we'll see you in the next one.